there, you're watching Viewpoint on CNN News 18. I'm Maha Siddiqui. The most contagious variant of COVID-19 yet, Omicron, is here. Karnataka has confirmed 2 cases of the variant. It's still early days, but we know that the Omicron variant can infect several times faster than even the Delta variant, which had wreaked havoc in India. It has at least 30 mutations on spike proteins, and we don't know yet whether that means immune escape for the virus, which essentially means we don't know yet how effective the present vaccine jabs will be against this variant. But we do know from our learnings over the past 2 years that the simple act of wearing a mask and washing hands regularly can greatly cut the risk of infection. But the pandemic fatigue seems to be clouding the senses of the masses as well, who refuse to wear a mask even as the world is faced with a fresh threat. What's the solution for this maskless, reckless population of the country? Can hefty fines, heavier fines, make them fall in line? That's the question we are asking on our show today. But before that, let's take a look at the number of cases that have been confirmed and the suspected Omicron cases in India so far. So we are starting off with Karnataka, that has said that there are two confirmed cases of Omicron in their state. Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Delhi, Punjab. These are all the states marked out here in orange for you that are the ones that have suspected cases of Omicron, all having been sent for genome sequencing. And despite this, what do we see around us? People interacting with each other without masks, no social distancing being maintained, all COVID-19 protocols being thrown to the wind.
हमारे देश में 2 ओमिक्रॉन वेरिएंट के केस हमारे इस नेटवर्क के द्वारा डिटेक्ट किए गए कर्नाटका में.
It's official. After spreading to more than 30 countries, the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has come to India. But most Indians appear to have gone into pre-pandemic mode. Markets are back to being crowded, there is little to no social distancing, and not a mask in sight.
We're right now outside the busy Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj station here, and as you can see behind me, large number of crowds. It's an important station because you have a large number of interstate trains as well as the local trains. A lot of people there, while they have been seen wearing a mask, it is not completely covering their face.
These are the visuals we are bringing you to show you that how people are not adhering to the guidelines laid down and mentioned by the government. Now, these are the people who are coming from outside the Shivaji Bridge railway station. Only few of the passengers are wearing their masks properly.
So far, Telangana is the only state to bring back the mask mandate. If you're caught in a public place without a mask, the fine is 1,000 rupees. But implementation is still a far cry.
मास्क क्यों नहीं पहना आपने?
मास्क है, अभी पहन लेता हूँ.
अभी पहनते हो?
अभी.
बड़ा लोग रहेगा ऐसा हो रहा है. So pretty much the scene, whenever they see the camera, they're putting on the mask. But social distancing is a concept that does not exist.
While the world is still trying to understand the Omicron variant, one thing is for certain. Vaccines and COVID-appropriate behavior is still our best bet.
COVID-appropriate behavior is required. Use of masks and not organizing mass gatherings will help breaking the chain of transmission of Omicron.
India has witnessed 2 devastating COVID waves in the last 2 years. Yet public memory appears to be short. With norms going out of the window, how prepared are we if Omicron brings in a 3rd wave to India?
Joining me now on the show, Dr. Arun Gupta, President of the Delhi Medical Council, Dr. Anshul Avijit, Congress spokesperson, Dr. Rahul Pandit, Director, Critical Care Fortis Hospitals, Mumbai, and member of National COVID-19 Task Force, Tuhin Sinha, BJP spokesperson. Let me first go across to Dr. Pandit. Dr. Pandit, how much evidence do people in the country require that masks do help? After all, so many, above 90%, and that is one data that indicates of the doctors did not get infected due to COVID-19 simply because they were all masked up.
Absolutely. Good evening. And I completely concur with what you just said. There is no doubt about it that mask remains the single most important weapon along with vaccination that we have to protect ourselves. And the fact of the matter is that we as doctors, nurses, paramedics, we go inside the COVID ICU, we go inside the COVID wards masked up, and the infection rate amongst the healthcare professional is not very different from the general population. That just tells us that we are actually probably not catching the infection inside the ICU. Some of us who may have caught the infection probably have caught them out when our guard probably goes down a little bit. But inside the hospital, inside the ICU, we are always masked up. And there is no second doubt that when you are stepping out of your house, if you are not a frontline worker, you need to double mask, one cloth mask and one surgical mask at least. And if you're a frontline worker, N95 mask. I think that is going to save us from each and every variant, not just Omicron, but anything else which crops up in future, any other virus which crops up in future, mask is going to be our savior.
Dr. Pandit, many thanks for pointing out exactly how you should be wearing a mask, because there was one research, and Dr. Gupta, I want to come to you here, that suggested that probably, and this is, something that again needs more study, wearing of ineffective only cloth masks was what wreaked havoc in India in the second wave when we were facing the Delta variant. So really masking up, but masking up properly is important. I know there has been a lot of awareness created about that, Dr. Gupta, but can you reiterate the points as far as masking is concerned?
I think that is the only thing beside vaccination you can do to prevent yourself. I think that point has been reiterated again and again. Now, how to wear a mask and what is the proper mask? We have been educating people for almost a year now. Now, once what is the basic problem? Once the rate of infection goes down, we as a public become again lax again. You see the vaccination rate also dips down when there's a decrease in the number of cases.
That's right.
Now, once the Omicron threat is there, are you again seeing the rising the number of people flogging for the vaccination? So now that is something which is very, I would say rather irresponsible. Now we have to go all out for the vaccination. In Delhi, we have the first vaccination covering almost 93%, but the second vaccination is still 57%. So there's a lot of gap which has to be covered. The vaccination is about whatever mutations will be there, mutations will keep on happening. This is a natural cycle of virus. The virus will keep on mutating. There is this is not something which is unexpected happening here. This will keep on happening. The good thing is that this virus so far is reportedly having very mild diseases, not critically a severe patient are reported. But the bad thing is that because of this mutation, our already made antibodies in our body, whether because of a natural infection or due to vaccination, may not be able to recognize this virus as an old virus. It could be a new virus. So that is why this virus is spreading much faster than the earlier virus. So I think very well said. The mask is the only thing your personal guard or personal weapon.
Absolutely. And here is where the leaders also need to set an example. Dr. Anshula Vijit, I want to come to you on that count. Now we have very important state elections early next year. We are seeing rallies and public meetings already starting, and we are seeing leaders without masks addressing those meetings. Of course, the general public then believes that even they can be present there without a mask. Do you think it is important for leaders to set that example?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the importance of masks can never be underestimated. I mean, they're of enormous significance, and we've been saying that for almost 2 years now, 1.5 years, we've been saying it time and again. So there are a number of COVID protocols, there is mask, and that's one side of the story. You know what is very disturbing at this point, when we still don't know very much about this virus. Dr. Saab has said that it's an emasculated variant. It's not that malevolent. We really don't know, and we shouldn't take it at face value. The point is that from the disastrous response of this government to the second wave, it doesn't inspire any confidence. So one side is the responsible citizenry, right? The other side is what the government preparedness is. And that doesn't inspire any confidence. We know what happened in the second wave, Maha, where the Prime Minister himself, midway through the battle declared victory and then went on to address speech after speech without wearing a mask, by the way. Speech after speech, marveling at the crowds before him. And the kind of losses we saw in the second wave is just heartbreaking. You still remember it. People have forgotten. But, one should not forget those bodies floating down the Ganga and those funeral pyres and people gasping for breath. and those people begging for oxygen in those social media messages. That's still there. Now, hopefully we don't need that this time, but we can never be too sure. There has to be preparedness. And how can there be preparedness if only less than 30% of this country has been fully vaccinated? The government promised that this country would be, adult population would be vaccinated by December end. That hasn't happened. And as the doctors pointed out, that march on one side.
Abhijit, who's responsible for this? I mean, at the end of the day, when there are enough vaccines now available, there was a point where there was vaccine shortage. There is no longer vaccine shortage in the country. Who is also responsible apart from administration and governments now? The citizens also need to step in. Tuhin Sinha, what has the government done so far, if you can elaborate for us, in trying to get people to step out and get themselves vaccinated? Yes, it is worrisome that people have become lax after the second wave, and even the death of near and dear ones hasn't woken people up.
You know, I'm glad you pointed this out, Baha, because the 6 states which are the worst performers in terms of vaccination are Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand and Bengal. And I don't even need to get into who's ruling these states. Has Rahul Gandhi ever exhorted any of his state governments to rake up vaccination numbers instead of, just spreading this misinformation and falsehood that there is vaccine shortage in the country, which he continued to do until 2 months ago? The worst performer in terms of COVID management has been Kerala. Even today, when you have 10,000 cases in the country, almost 40 to 50% of the cases come from Kerala. There is a Pandora's box. Nobody knows what Kerala is doing to control it. And this has been consistent for the last 6 months. Again, who is the MP, sitting MP from there? Rahul Gandhi. So, it is very easy to blame the center. Even today, the death per million of the population of India is the lowest. The prevalence of the disease per million of the population is the lowest.
That doesn't matter. The percentages don't matter, because these are people, these are not statistics that we're talking about here. These are people who've died, people from, every family knows of deaths in their family or extended family in the second wave.
Every death is extremely disturbing, but I'm sure, when you compare the numbers, this is not an Indian problem. This is a global pandemic.
Of course, this is not an Indian problem. This is a pandemic globally spread, but we need to be prepared.
Yes. Absolutely, and we are doing everything to be prepared.
Okay.
I urge Anshul Abhijit to ask his leader to rake up, the vaccination numbers in the states where the Congress is in power.
I'll come back to both of you for more political questions, because yes, apart from this being a health crisis, this is also a matter of leadership, of how we deal with the situation politically as well. Dr. Gupta, I want to come back to you, because I want your comment on the fact that, the political debate that goes on, that there was no shortage of vaccines is what the government will say. Opposition says there was a shortage of vaccine, there was oxygen supply that was in shortage in the second wave, and that is why deaths happened. Does a rectification start in any situation by accepting faults and rectifying them?
I think that is the best thing, or at the least thing you can do. I think the second wave, I would give some like leverage to the government, because the scale and the way it came, it was really unexpected for us also. But they must learn their lesson now. They must. I think I would agree with some gentleman who was saying the political message is also not right. Now the politicians are making the rallies. They are not wearing the mask, and they are giving a very, very wrong message to the public, like the corona is gone forever. It is not so. Now they must behave in a proper way, because most of the people in our country they watch TV and they behave accordingly. They don't have an idea. Now you go to road and any city and any park or any market, people are like behaving as if there was no corona. The memory is very, very, very short. Now this is the time where government has to take the leading role, and they must educate people. They must. I won't say that create a panic, but at least to tell them repeatedly by their behavior also that please, COVID is not gone, and you never know when third or fourth wave might be coming.
Dr. Pandit, whereas there are restrictions on gatherings, for instance, weddings, as well as other kind of gatherings, many people question why there are no restrictions as far as political rallies are concerned. We have seen in West Bengal, before that in Bihar, and now we're already seeing in Uttar Pradesh, rallies have started, public gatherings are on. should there be restrictions on leaders and political parties as well to send out the correct message to the masses?
So it's not about politics or religion or any mass gathering. It's about understanding the science, how this disease spreads. This disease spreads when there is a congregation of people in a very small place or a crowded place. So anything which leads to that, as responsible citizens, as responsible leaders, as responsible officials, we all, and doctors, we all should understand that we've got to avoid that. And every time you step out of the house, if you wear a mask and you make sure that you don't go into such a gathering, which will actually have people standing very close to each other, automatically the spread would go down. So I don't want to make any political or any other statement here, but I want to simply say that yes, gathering is a problem. And we need to make sure that we, at the moment when things are again starting to look that they might be a upswing in the number of cases, whether that happens or not is a different thing. I'm not even talking about the transmissibility of the Omicron, because that still is questionable. But let's assume that we need to take precautionary steps. In that, whatever needs to be taken in the national interest should be done uniformly across the country.
Dr. Pandit, but do we have a sense of how contagious this is? Because South Africa is reporting that hospitalizations haven't been much, but the number of people who are coming down with infections is very high. And that is also a concern, because at the end of the day, it does put pressure on their healthcare infrastructure.
Yes, so what I know is that the test positivity rate has climbed up to around 22 in South Africa. The absolute number of patients has increased, and because of which the number of hospitalizations have increased. So percentage-wise, the hospitalizations have not changed much, but the absolute number which is coming positive is much higher. Hence, obviously, around 10% of people need hospitalization. We know that from the previous two waves that we have faced. So that's what's happening. I think technically, if you look at the mutations, there is a theoretical chance that this is definitely more transmissible than the Delta variant. How many times? Is it 2 times? Is it 30%? Is it 5 times? I have no idea, because none of us really know that clearly. That's right. Whether it causes severe disease or not, I think that we will have to wait for 2 to 3 weeks at least, maybe even a bit longer, to understand the entire spectrum of the disease. So I think by the end of December, after 20th or 25th of December, when good 3-4 weeks would have gone by, we will come to know what is the spectrum of the disease, how many people are actually landing up in ICU. Is there any other organ involvement apart from lungs? Is it just affecting the lungs, or is it also causing a myocarditis affecting the heart? All those things are there. Or is it not causing any severe symptom? It's just a mild disease as we are hoping right now for. So I think rather than being speculative, let us be preventive. Let's wear a mask. Let's stop congregation of people, and let's vaccinate ourselves as quickly as possible, because that's the simple thing to do to stay away from any problem.
Tuhin Sinha, will the leaders then show us the way? And in the current scenario, when we are going to go in for very crucial state elections, will political rallies be curtailed?
Well, absolutely, Maha. You can rest assured that all precautions will be taken. We are closely monitoring the situation, and the moment a need arises to restrict the crowd or to take other severe measures. But the thing is, in a democracy, elections cannot be, postponed indefinitely, which was a suggestion from of the left liberal lobby in the past, also during Bengal. So elections are also important, but I'm sure Election Commission will also, be more proactive this time and take all measures. Having said that, I need to point out over here that irresponsible leaders like Akhilesh Yadav, who in the middle of election rallies are proclaiming proudly that they have not taken the vaccine and will not take vaccine, do a huge disservice to this country and the people who they, claim to serve.
Okay. Anshul Avijit, can we get an assurance from your party as well that that it's going to be, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, be responsible in the public gatherings?
I'm really surprised at the way my friend Tuhin called left liberals as some kind of great slur, and that the onus on protecting this country was left to the left liberals alone. I mean, it's everyone's responsibility. I take his first point. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure that this doesn't spread. But the onus is on the central government. It hasn't been acting responsibly at all. Actually, Maha, the Omicron was discovered about on 26th, so I don't know, about 10 days back. And right now there's mayhem at the airports. You've done a number of stories in this channel yourself. Why did this happen? It just goes to show that the level of preparedness, which is most concerning about this, by this government, is still very, very weak. So we haven't learned our lessons, and that is extremely worrisome. So yes, of course,
So Anshul, Avijit, the parliament session is on. Put the government on the mat there.
We've raised these issues. Today in the parliament, yesterday in the parliament, our leaders of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, all of them are raising these issues.
In the Rajya Sabha, we are seeing constant adjournments.
Yeah, but that is not the but that is not the opposition's fault. The opposition is not allowed to speak. The Prime Minister in the beginning of the session said, "Nahi, charcha hogi, har sawal ka jawab denge." But what does he do? He doesn't allow any discussion on when the farmers' laws are appealed. So the first act by the government in this session was to do the very thing that he promised to do. What can the opposition do? So whenever there is a chance, we're going to raise this. We've raised this, the thing about underreporting of deaths. The thing about lack of oxygen. Is there a white paper on the number of oxygen plants? God forbid. I hope they're never required. But is there a white paper on the number of oxygen plants today? I mean, this is the question that we should all be asking.
That's the point I want to take with Tuhin Sinha, because we are running short of time over here. Tuhin Sinha, as I asked one of the doctors there, is it not important that you accept your mistakes if you want to rectify them? If there was oxygen shortage, and all of us know about it because there were messages coming in from people desperately seeking oxygen cylinders or wanting to get a hospital bed, oxygen bed. Why should we not accept it? Because constantly the refrain is there were no deaths because of shortage of oxygen.
There is nobody can deny that we had to face a precarious 2 weeks in April, May this year where there was an oxygen shortage. Having said that, instead of going by what the Congress says, I would much rather trust what Dr. Devi Shetty has said on the issue. A seasoned expert, a seasoned doctor who has repeatedly said that the way the government raked up the supply, increased the supply, is something very few governments could have done. So instead of going by what the Congress says, which anyway does not go by research, does not go by credible evidence.
That is the point, Tuhin Sinha. That is the point. Then what does it speak for? What does it say about our preparedness?
As of today, I can tell you in the last 6 months,
let me go across to the two doctors because I have the last 2 minutes left, Tuhin. Dr. Pandit, I want to come to you on this count. We know that pandemics happen in waves. That is the learning from the last pandemic as well. It's not as if there was no documentation of the last pandemic that happened in the 1920s. Why did we then anticipate that this pandemic will not come in waves as it has been? I mean, that learning was already with us. Why did we not anticipate that?
No, we never said that we didn't anticipate. When the pandemic came, all the doctors across the world knew that this is going to stay for a year or two and it will come in multiple waves, and the second wave is usually bigger than the third wave. And way back in January, we were worried that there may be another wave coming back into the country, and it did come back. So but these are all speculations. When we are not facing the number of rising cases, we think that this could be a speculation. But as doctors, we know that it will happen in waves. 2 or 3 waves will come, maybe 4th wave will come, maybe 5th wave will come. Ultimately, the virus will hypermutate and dilute itself and go away. But when would it go away? After the 2nd wave, after the 5th wave? Nobody knows that. That's not something which can be predicted ever, because if somebody can make that prediction, it would be a Nobel Prize in medicine.
Dr. Pandit, last 30 seconds. You are saying the virus ultimately hypermutates and then it weakens and then, finally the pandemic wears out. Are we looking at a hypermutation now with Omicron?
Well, it's a difficult one to answer, but yes, there is a hypermutation. If that hypermutation has made it mild, it's a welcome sign. But as I said, we just don't know enough of it right now. It's too early to make this kind of a statement. I think we just need to wait, be patient.
All right. Dr. Pandit, Dr. Gupta, Tuhin Sinha and Anshul Avijit, many thanks for joining me on this show this evening. Meanwhile, on Brass Tacks at 9 p.m, global booster push. What is India waiting for? We'll be debating that.